This is one of the most famous chapters in the Bible. Elijah is taken to heaven in a whirlwind, and Elisha begins his prophetic ministry with the double portion of his spirit. So, the first part of this chapter covers Elijah's final journey. Elijah knows the Lord will soon take him away. He travels with Elisha from Gilgal to Bethel to Jericho and finally to Jordan. At each stop, Elijah tells Elisha to stay behind, but Elisha insists on going with them. The prophets at each location say, "Do you know the Lord will take your master today?" Elisha replies, "Yes, I know, be quiet." At the Jordan, Elijah strikes the water with his cloak, and the river parts so they cross on dry ground. Which is interesting. Elijah's journey retraces Israel's history in reverse, from the promised land back across the Jordan, as if passing the mantle to the next generation. The second part of this chapter covers Elisha's request. Elijah asks, "Tell me, what can I do for you before I'm taken from you?" Elisha replies, "Let me inherit a double portion of your spirit." Elijah says it is a difficult request, but possible if Elisha sees him taken away. As they walk, a chariot of fire and horses of fire separate them. Elijah goes up to heaven in a whirlwind. Elisha cries, my father, the chariots and horsemen of Israel." He tears his clothes in grief, okay? The double portion refers to the inheritance of a firstborn son. Elijah asks to be Elijah's true prophetic heir. The third part of this chapter covers Elisha begins his ministry. Elisha picks up Elijah's cloak and returns to the Jordan. He strikes the water, crying, "Where now is the Lord, the God of Elijah?" The river parts again, confirming God's power is now with Elisha. The prophets watching recognize the spirit of Elijah rests on Elisha. They search for Elijah for 3 days, but find nothing. God had truly taken him. God confirms Elisha as Elijah's successor through the same miracle and the prophet's acknowledgement. The fourth part of this chapter covers Elisha's first acts. Healing of Jericho's water. The men of Jericho complain the city's water is bad and causes death. Elisha throws salt into the spring, declaring, "This is what the Lord says, I have healed this water." The water becomes pure. So then there's the judgment on mockers. As Elisha goes to Bethel, some boys jeer, "Going up, you bald head." Elisha curses them in the same name of the Lord. 2 bears maul 42 of the boys. Okay, so the miracles show both God's mercy, healing water, and his judgment, disciplining disrespect. What are the key lessons from the 2 Kings chapter 2? The first lesson is God raises up new leaders for his work. Elijah's mission ends, but Elisha continues with even greater power. Second lesson, spiritual inheritance matters more than material wealth. Elisha asked for a double portion of the Spirit, not riches. Third lesson, God's power brings both life and judgment. Healing Jericho's water shows mercy. The bears show God will not tolerate mockery of his servants. Fourth lesson, Elijah's ascension foreshadows Christ. Just as Elijah was taken up, Jesus later ascended, but with the promise of sending the Spirit to empower his followers, okay? So in summary, Elijah is taken up to heaven in a whirlwind with the chariots of fire. Elisha inherits his mantle and begins his ministry with signs of God's power, parting the Jordan, healing Jericho's water, and judging disrespect. The prophetic mission continues, showing God's Spirit remains with his people. Okay, so this was the second chapter. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and I see you on the next one.